The Avengers game announced at E3, the title a lot of people have been worried about is finally playable, and for the first time I get to test the water and see if the doubts behind this game are warranted. Is this an Anthem clone, a cash grab, a trash of a game, or is it actually an engaging experience filled with varied combat and a fun gameplay loop with emphasis on an in-depth combo system? Now, to keep this video short and sweet, I'm really only focusing on my impressions of the overall game. I will dive deeper into the depths of the Avengers Beta in 2 to 3 videos, as I have many things I'd like to theorize about. I just don't want to get lost on a topic, as there are many I'd like to discuss my thoughts on. That being said, let's kick this off by getting into the basics. When I first heard about the Avengers, I didn't know what to think. I was excited above anything else, but at the same time, if the last 2 years have really taught me anything, it's to be hesitant regarding hype. But I just couldn't help myself. Finally, I get to play as my iconic heroes I, and many others are obsessed with. How could I not be excited? So I tried to go into this beta with an open mind, and luckily it did not disappoint. Sure, the graphics aren't the best, the FPS can drop like crazy, and the screen shake, added with the overuse of motion blur, could make even Thor himself sick, but man, when you get down to it, the gameplay is just so damn fun. I just wanted to keep jumping into mission after mission. All the characters feel unique from each other. Sure, they all have buttons you can mash with similar controls, but the final result doing those moves are satisfyingly varied. To put it simply, the combat is cinematic, which is a really good thing. Now, there's these little touches to the animations of both the heroes and enemies, and I'm sure if you've played the game a decent amount, you probably know what I'm referring to. It's just, these nice little touches to the animation really show care for these characters, and honestly, I was kinda impressed by it. It really does make you feel as if you're fighting as these heroes. Now, we didn't get to explore the entire roster of characters, but the ones we do play with are very unique from each other. You have the menacing, incredible Hawk, who can withstand a lot of damage while healing himself. He's very good at also aggroing enemies. He really serves as your tankier character, but again, all these characters can be played however you want them to be played. Now, he is a sluggish brute, smashing everything in his path. Now, adding the Hulk in a game structured like this can be a bit tricky. With him being so strong, sometimes it's really hard to believe the fact that he can hit this small enemy and somehow they just didn't get instantly incinerated. It's a little weird, and it's a small problem here. However, this is a game first, and making him in a way where he matches perfectly with his comic book counterpart just wouldn't be as fun for the player. In fact, I think it'd ruin the whole feel of the game, at least with that character. In my opinion, he plays as he should, a walking tank who could soak up damage while his teammates take care of high priority targets. Then we have Black Widow. She's agile, deadly up close. She can go from enemy to enemy using her grappling hook, doing insane combo damage at the same time. And when she feels the heat of battle, she can back up and switch to her gunslinger-like ranged attacks with her pistols. She's a fierce DPS, for of course we can't forget the legendary, invincible Iron Man himself. He is a master of flight, giving opportunities for some insanely fun mid-air battle. But he's also very good as a boots on the ground type, with a selection of different weapon types at his disposal, all of which you've probably seen in the films, which is a nice touch to the original characters. He is definitely one of my favorites to play. The last character is of course Miss Marvel. She's probably the hero most casual fans aren't aware of. She can deal heavy damage, but at the same time she's very good as a support character, as she can heal herself and her teammates. That's what I like. Every single hero to me is fun to play. I always felt the need to take my time to learn the ins and outs of every character. This, to me, is a display of very good character design. The combat is probably one of the more important factors of the Avengers. Admittedly, you won't be doing much else, but really that doesn't matter. You'll probably hear some people claim that this game is bud mashy, and of course this is true. It's almost true for all action heavy games, excluding FPS and other obvious genres. But it's the way you mash those buttons, and the visual difference you see when those corresponding moves take effect, not to mention all the badass skills in the skill tree. It's all varied. Every character fights like you would assume they could in the Marvelverse. So if you're a fan of the Marvel series, especially the characters you see displayed in this video, then I could easily say that you should keep an eye on this game when it releases. Now, I can't tell you for sure you'll like it, but if you've always wanted to beat up some androids and villains as some of the most legendary superheroes that exist, then this is an easy recommend. Especially since there have been leaks of many different characters being in the files of this game. Now, I'll be making a video on this subject and more soon. Now, the game is not without fault, of course. Well, the beta anyways. There was a major bug that just wouldn't let you matchmake, which is a very important aspect to an online game. And it's not the only one. Now, in my case, I really didn't come across too many bugs, but many others have, so that's always a thing to keep in mind. Now, also, sometimes the camera just doesn't know where to go, and it can be very disorientating. Hopefully they can make adjustments to that. The lock-on system could also use some polishing. It's a bit hard to target one enemy when you're surrounded. I think a pinging system could be useful, especially if we're going to be getting raid-like content. Though that's easier said than done, I'm sure. Communication without mics as of right now is just damn near impossible, excluding emotes. Now I agree that if you're in a group, you should probably usually be on the voice chat, but sometimes it's just nice to chill out and not worry about talking the entire time and still be able to communicate efficiently, so it'd definitely be a welcome mechanic, at least in my opinion. I'm also a little bit worried about location variety. Now we did see some very cool locations, a forest land, a burning war site, which was actually pretty awesome, an icy tundra area. You see it first in a story mission, then later on you can actually unlock this via a secret mission. I'll come back to that in a moment. Then you have your indoor labs and facilities, which I honestly like the aesthetic of. Though they were a bit similar, each place did kinda have a little bit of a different feel to it. I'm hoping for more though, but that's just me being a greedy fan who wants all the iconic areas I love. It'd be cool to see new planets eventually, or even realms like Asgard. But that may be asking a little too much, but being the Avengers is adapting the games as a service-like model, similar to Destiny 2, The Division, and dare I say it, Anthem, maybe all these iconic areas will be added later on. Apparently they will be adding new villains with all the new heroes they plan to insert into the game. I'll link a video from someone who knows more than I do on the topic below if you're interested, but my hope is these new locations may accompany these newest additions. I know many aren't really fond of this genre and are just sick of games as a service, but in some cases it can be a good thing to get more of a game that's as fun as the Avengers, as long as the base game has a very substantial amount of content to hold us over, of course. Now we're gonna have to wait until release to find out. My hopes right now are pretty high. Let's hope September 4th doesn't bring those hopes crashing right down. At its heart, Avengers is a looter shooter, and with looter shooters there's really two main aspects that will surely make or break the game. Number one, of course, is the loot and the systems designed around it. The second being mission and level design. Now, depending on the person, this can obviously be switched. But don't get me wrong, it seems like Avengers will actually have a strong story to back it up. I just didn't get to see much of that, so I can't speak too much on it. But first I'd like to discuss the two main pillars that usually hoist this genre up, starting with the loot. Admittedly, I was a little nervous when it came to the loot, for the one main reason that it just doesn't change how your hero looks. That's usually a big red flag for me, but then I thought to myself, I really enjoyed the Marvel Alliance series and even the little MMO they had. They were very similar in nature, and then I played the game. The moment the loot started dropping, I noticed that sure, it really did not change my outfit at all, but it could change how a certain move looks. For example, there's an item that adds a gamma radiation effect to your range attacks. And this isn't the only item that did that. I'm sure they'll have this for all the different elemental effects in the game. Now I started to get better and better loot, and actually found myself excited to pick up that next piece, which was odd to me, since most of the time, if a game really doesn't have gear that changes my look, it feels off for some reason. And to my surprise, I just found myself going out of my way to look for that hidden chest constantly. Now this gear, it can change how your moment-to-moment gameplay looks and feels. There are 6 rarities, and it has a generic rating system, so if you've seen it in other games, you've seen it here. White is your common, green is your uncommon, blue is your rare, purple is an epic, orange a legendary, and finally red as an exotic. Now I've been able to get all but an exotic piece. Each piece above a certain level in rarity has a perk assigned to it. The higher the rarity, the more perks you have. And you can unlock the full capabilities of an item by using materials you find throughout the world and missions. It can be pretty damn useful. Leveling it up also increases your power level. This is what will determine what missions you can do fluidly, very similar to most games of the same genre, like Destiny 2. But you can be underleveled and still complete higher tier missions. I honestly can't wait to explore the loot system. I really want to see what these exotic artifacts are and what they'll add to the gameplay. I'll have a more detailed video on items and my thoughts later in this mini-series, but overall, I really wasn't as disappointed as I thought I might have been. Now let's talk about the mission and level design. Now there's a few different types of missions. You of course have the main story missions. We only got to play with 3 of these, but each one did have detailed world building and cutscenes. And I really can't see this being a rush story, so there might be a lot of these, and I can't wait to see how much of it I get to experience in the full game. It's definitely the best regarding the objectives you have to do and just how it flows. Then you have your drop zones, which is a shorter mission layout. Some of these are so short, you'll finish it before you even get used to the location you're in. Now some are better than others, but as the beta stands, it gets the job done. Serves as a good way to test out heroes. Then you have your war zones. These are big explorable environments where sometimes it'll face you off against a boss, which is really cool. Now there's plenty of loot to be found. It's all scattered around, and if you use your objective scan, certain interest points will be pointed out for you. Sometimes you'll have to solve a puzzle to get to the chest or rescue that person. Sometimes you'll have to eliminate targets. Either way though, you'll be sure to find some loot. There's even a secret mission type you can unlock by finding a secret underground puzzle in a specific mission. You'll find an item in a chest there called a vault resource. When you pick this up during the beta, it gave us what they call a vault mission, which appeared only when you get this coin and disappeared once you've completed the mission. This is actually kinda unexpected. I'm sure this will be their take on dungeons, or something of similar nature. Now completing it is very rewarding in both loot and materials, and I can't wait to explore more of these vaults. There will also be a faction mechanic in the game. Now this was leaked in the past, but I know this specifically because I was rescuing a random person and a guy comes to teleport him back to our base, I assume, and then all of a sudden I got a faction level up message on the side of my screen. This is really cool. This tells me that factions actually will play a big part in the game. I'm not sure if this was accidental keeping this in the beta or not, but I'm glad they did. My guess is this game really does have a lot more to it than we, or at least I, assumed. So when it comes to the mission design and exploration, I have to give it to the Avengers. It surpassed my expectations. I also like the mission rating system that they have on display here. After each mission, you'll be asked to rate it out of 5. Now this is genius and ignorant at the same time. On one hand, it can help the devs bring better and more engaging content based on player feedback. On the other, it could be used to troll and give inaccurate data, but overall I think the system will benefit the game. Now I'm not sure if this is just for the beta, because I could see it getting very annoying if you're running mission after mission and you have to do this mission rating thing every single time. Goes without saying, if there are even more unique secrets, such as I just discussed, then I'm really sold on this game. That doesn't exactly mean the level design is the best, but it's not bad. Actually, it felt pretty damn good, and at times very fluid. Indoor locations are filled with destructible items. You'll be seeing debris flying everywhere, especially in a high octane fight, and honestly, it was more satisfying than I thought it would be. Even in these small indoor places, a lot of times you'll be rewarded for checking around a corner, or in that doorway that's just calling your name. Now the outside locations are also fun to run around and play in. They admittedly serve mostly as a playground, which is perfect for what it needs to be. The cityscape map is fun to zip rope around and just fly around it with Iron Man. It's just so cool. The forest lane is filled with very arcadey-like platforms, and arcadey does not mean bad. It's not overdone and mostly feels like it belongs in the world and really just helps you get from place to place. It also serves as a place just to use your traversal skills and get used to them. There's also the snowy landscape, which feels similar to the forest map, but I enjoyed all the locations overall. Though they were admittedly basic, exploring them were actually a highlight of this demo. There's a lot more I want to talk about. The cosmetics, all of which are impressive and make my mouth water imagining what other costumes they're putting in the game. But of course it says microtransactions dragging right behind it. I want to talk in depth about the combat because it's just that good, specifically with the skill trees. I'd love to show you guys my most exciting moments and what I mean by cinematic combat, and why exactly I'm sold on this game. Most of all, I want to discuss the possibilities of the content to come. But this video is too long as it is. Those other topics will be brought up in videos I'll be following soon after this. Be sure to stop by if you've enjoyed what you've seen so far. Overall, the Avengers is a game I really want to dive into. It's a game I'm worried about, one I'm overly excited for. This game could fail, falling into the pit that Anthem is trying to climb its way out of right now, or it could surpass all of our expectations, giving us a new take on our much beloved heroes, a fresh breath of much needed air. It will be hard. I mean, it does have to stand with all the beloved characters on the silver screen and in the comic books, ones many have grown to love and be accustomed to over the years. It has some mighty obstacles it will need to conquer. But if it can triumph, if it can come out on top, it will show people being open to a new set of characters from a beloved franchise isn't a bad thing. In fact, it can be an eye-opener, but that may be giving the game too much credit. One thing's for sure, this may be a game you want to keep an eye on. If you like this game's style, then you might want to take note of September 4th and look at the reviews mine included, to see if in fact this dominates those obstacles laid before it. And now if you don't like this type of game, of which I mean a looter shooter, but do enjoy a good story, especially superhero related, then the prior statement includes you too. Hell, even if you don't like this genre, there's nothing wrong with keeping an open mind until reviews and gameplay videos can show the darkness betas seem to hide fairly often. Now of course, if this is not not the game for you, it's not the game for you. There's nothing wrong with that. That being said, I do hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back soon for more on the Avengers, as well as another game I've been playing recently. I'm sure it'll appeal to you if you're a fan of competitive FPS games. Anyways, I really hope you have a great day, and an even better weekend, and I'll talk to you guys later. I'm out of here.